money must be backed by the wealth that comes from the land. If it is not, it is worthless. Worthless. Has no value whatsoever. Now, I cannot understand how the American people allowed our money to be debased, to be taken away from us, to be counterfeited. And that's what a Federal Reserve note is. It's a counterfeit dollar because it does not conform to the definition of what our money is in the Constitution, and thus is illegal. How did they get away with this? The Federal Reserve Bank was established in 1914 after a meeting in 1913 on an island called Jekyll Island by some of the wealthiest bankers in this nation, representing, I might add, European banking interests. And they conned the Congress of the United States into forming a central bank. Not a central bank owned and operated by the United States government, folks, but a privately owned corporation called the Federal Reserve as the central bank of the United States of America. The Federal Reserve Act exempted this private corporation from paying income taxes and made it against the law to audit them. They have never, ever been audited, and I'm going to tell you why. Because, folks, if they were to be audited, you would find out that this country has literally been stolen from us. Because here's how the Federal Reserve Bank operates. They have two ways of stealing money from the American people. Actually, three ways. The first is that if the United States needs money, let's say, they print up 1,000 $1 bills. The Federal Reserve then agrees to loan the United States $1,000. They buy those 1,000 $1 bills from the United States Treasury where it was printed for just a little over $20. That's the printing costs, and there's no profit built into that. And then they turn around and loan those dollars to the United States of America. You see, the money never existed. They don't open a bank vault and take out $1,000 and loan it to the United States of America. No, sir. They make a bookkeeping entry. They create this money out of thin air. It never existed before in the history of the world. They then pay the United States Treasury a little over $20 per each $1,000 in $1 bills that is printed, or they just issue the money to the United States as a loan in the form of credit without printing any money. They then loan this money to the United States of America in the form of Federal Reserve notes. And then to guarantee that the United States will pay them back, the United States gives them a $1,000 Treasury bond, which pays interest to the Federal Reserve bankers. Now, I don't know about you, but I call this theft. You see, what they have done, folks, is just pocketed approximately $980 that they never had before. Plus, they're going to pocket the interest that they're going to earn on that $1,000 Treasury bond above and beyond the $1,000 that we have to pay them back. So they have literally stolen from the people of the United States of America approximately $980 plus the interest from the Treasury bond. The United States Treasury, in return, has received just a little over $20 for the printing of those 1,000 $1 bills, and that includes no profit. This is highway robbery. This is despicable. This is what has happened to this country. I'm going to explain a few things to you now, folks, that you probably never knew. That's the first way that they steal money from the people of the United States of America. The second way that they steal it is through the repayment of the loan with the interest that was never created. You see, if the interest was never created, it has to come from somewhere. Where does it come from? From the sweat and the tears and the labor and the resources of the American people. It comes out of your substance. It's the same as if I had $1 and I loan 10 cents to 10 people, each at 10% simple interest over 1 year's period, which means they must pay me back each 11 cents. But you see, in this little world that I've created here, there's only $1. That's all that exists. And I have loaned that dollar out to these 10 people who had no money before. Now, each one has 10 cents. Yet each one of them has to pay me back 11 cents. Now, that equals $1.10, folks. How are they going to pay me back 11 cents each if all that exists in this whole world is $1? One of them has to go down the tubes in order to furnish the interest for the others to pay. That's how it works, folks. One of them has to go down the tubes in order for the others to pay back their money with interest. Either that, or I create out of thin air some more money so that the one who isn't doing so well can borrow more money from me. That puts more money out there. And the byproduct of that transaction is inflation, and everybody gets just a little bit poorer so that they can pay it back. But it requires that somebody always owes somebody else money, and it requires that the debt always escalate in order that the theft of the money not be found out, that the people don't find out that I'm creating this money that I'm loaning them out of thin air. Now, also there has to be a measure. There has to be a measure to remove some of this money from circulation constantly, because the constant creation of money that never existed before and putting it into circulation will create rampant, unbelievable inflation if there is not some way, some measure to ensure that some of that money is taken out of circulation. And to do this, I create an organization which is a collection agency to collect the debt that the people owe me. And in real life, this is called the Internal Revenue Service, which is also a private corporation incorporated in the state of Delaware. Didn't know that, did you, folks? Go get your checks that you used to pay your taxes with. The check that you wrote. If you didn't owe any taxes, you didn't write a check, so you can't do this. But if you owed some taxes and you wrote a check, and you paid your taxes with this check, go get that check out of your records, look on the back of it, and you'll see that the check that you thought that went to the United States Treasury did not. On the back, there's a rubber stamp that says, pay any FRB. That means Federal Reserve Bank. And then it says, in payment of OBLIG, in payment of U.S. OBLIG. That means in payment of the United States obligation. Obligation to who? To the Federal Reserve. You see, what's happening is the Internal Revenue Service is not depositing your taxes that you pay, that you think you're paying, into the United States Treasury. It is going directly to the Federal Reserve Bank and then out of this country to prevent the American people from realizing that money is being created out of thin air, and that our wealth, our natural resources, our nation, our substance, our people, our property is being stolen from us because, folks, You're going to hear it here for the first time if you've never heard it before in your life. The national debt can never be repaid. Never. And all of this is why I laughed so hard when George Bush made the suggestion that we put a box on our income tax forms that we could check if we wanted a portion of our taxes to go to pay off the national debt. What a joke. And so many people swallowed it hook, line, and sinker. You see, all your taxes go to the Federal Reserve Bank, and the national debt can never be repaid. Never. Never. And because of that, at some future date, and I believe that that date is very soon, is just around the corner, just barely over the horizon, the world bankers are going to demand payment of the money that we owe them, and we don't have any money to pay them. The United States will be forced to declare bankruptcy, and the bankers will foreclose on the debt. You see, there's no way we can ever pay it back, because none of the interest was ever created. And the only real amount of money that the Federal Reserve ever loaned the United States was $100 at the inception of the Federal Reserve. The interest on that debt alone is over $27,000 over the years. The rest of the money that we have borrowed from the Federal Reserve never, ever existed. And that's why it was written in the law and insisted upon that the Federal Reserve would not have to pay income tax and would never be subject to audit. Congress gave away the nation. They were traitors. The Congress that passed the Federal Reserve Act were traitors, for they ensured the destruction of this nation and the enslavement of its people, by passing that act. For they knew that this money would be created out of thin air, and they also knew that if the United States established its own bank, we could create United States notes backed by the good faith and credit of the United States of America, which would not be interest-bearing. But they didn't do that. No, they created a central bank owned by private people, a private corporation, that has been stealing this country ever since. You see, shortly after that happened, in about 1938, the United States declared bankruptcy once already. When they declared that bankruptcy, in order to become solvent again, they pledged against the loan the entire resources of the United States of America, which includes all property, all natural resources, and the only thing in the world that has the ability to create wealth, its people. So, the next bankruptcy will accomplish the following, folks. All property in the United States will be seized as collateral for the debt of the United States, including all natural resources, all real property, real estate, all consumable goods, which are stereos, TVs, food, anything, everything. The corporations know this, and that's why they're all leaving the country. And the people of the United States, the citizens, will become indentured to the international bankers for however long it takes to repay the loan. Well, put that in your pipe and smoke it. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after this pause. But these people will fall